The elven king looked at Bilbo with a new wonder. Bilbo Baggins, he said, you are more worthy to wear the armor of elf princes than many that have looked more comely in it. This is the episode where Bilbo becomes the hero of my heart. Welcome to Biblioventures, The Hobbit, episode 12, chapters 15, The Gathering of the Clouds, and 16, A Thief in the Night, from the Rosenbach Museum and Library in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm Edward G. Pettit, and returning tonight as co-host is Robert Berry. Hi, Rob.
Hey,
Gonna be your last episode.
I really don't feel like a co-host here. I feel like a family friend and fly on the wall.
There you go.
I'm so glad to see Sophie.
This is my life. This is what I get to do. And joining us as a special guest co-host for this episode is Sophie H. Pettit. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, I'm so excited. I love watching the show. I feel very honored to get to be on it.
Good. It'll be a lot of fun. I know you're in the chat usually, which is great. And yes, people, if you are wondering it, Sophie is my daughter. So she's one of the five. She's four. She's number 4 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
If we had to number them all, she'd be 4. So
I thought there were tattoos.
What was that?
Yeah, well, we all got 5 tattooed, or we're all getting 5 tattooed. Only some of us have it thus far. But mostly because Pam didn't want to have to get the number 1 tattooed.
So you all get the same number. That's good.
The bits of family lore that you pick up along the way.
Well, we will also have a special announcement later at the mid-break. Stay tuned for that. You don't want to miss what's coming up next for Biblioventures, our special subscription-only show. And I'll tell you all about it at the mid-break. In the meantime, what are you drinking, Rob?
Huh?
What are you drinking?
Mostly, it's just perfectly serviceable Chardonnay from these days. I don't really get a chance to get out and do much mixology. I was a bartender for years, and we were first talking about it. It's like, oh, I'll get to design drinks, but I'll never drink.
Sophie, got anything special?
I have just peppermint tea because I do not have a high constitution, so I'm not going to have alcohol my first time on the show. But I'm drinking it out of a Hobbit mug. You can see all of them. Nice. We have Smaug.
It's a fun mug.
Mm-hmm.
It's good Smaug too.
I have made a drink with your favorite, Rob, the Chaucer's Mead, which I picked up, which is so delicious.
It is really good.
But I have made an old fashioned with it. So it's a mead old fashioned.
That sounds good.
With rye instead of bourbon, because that's what I had.
Right.
And but the Chaucer's Mead, the mead, because this Chaucer's Mead and there's a Bunratty Mead, these kind of big market ones, they're very sweet, and it really takes the place of the sugar you would put in an old fashioned. And it's good. And Thorin needs one, definitely.
Oh, Thorin has needs.
He does.
Yeah.
Well, if you feel free to add your drinks into the chat or send me some drinks. There's a lot of hellos for you in the chat, Sophie. So that's nice. And people love your mug.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning into this episode. We bring our Biblioventures series to you for free, and there are many other Biblioventures series you can watch on our YouTube channel. If you would like to support the Rosenbach through donation or by becoming a member, I would sincerely appreciate it. You can do this at our website, rosenbach.org. Your support helps us create programs like this and also care for our collections. And I would specifically like to thank the Wyncote Foundation for their support of Biblioventures. Our American first edition of The Hobbit was purchased with funds granted us by the Wyncote Foundation, whose mission is to support efforts that strengthen and enrich culture, community, and the natural environment. The Wyncote Foundation has been a friend of the Rosenbach for many years now, and we thank them for their support. If you're new to watching this, and you're probably not, you probably watched all the episodes, all the other episodes. Our approach is it's 1937 or 38. We're treating The Hobbit as a standalone novel. We may have some stuff to add later in the show, but I might have something different to do later for the Thanes book. Unless you guys want to contribute to the Thanes book, you're certainly welcome to.
Actually, Ed,
yeah,
there are some Thanes book things that we could talk about.
Good. Yeah,
I'd rather hear a Sophie's book.
Well, there are some things we're going to hit later because it's these Tolkien's plot notes that he was putting together before.
Yeah, those are in there. Yeah.
I have a whole bunch to do, and we can do those at the end of the show today. The plot notes that have to do with the things that happen in these two chapters are really fascinating to me. Okay. And no spoilers. We will not talk about later chapters of the book. We're only talking about chapters up to 15 and 16, the chapters we're doing tonight. So keep that in the chat as well. And my pipe today is a pipe I got from Sophie. This is a pipe she got me in Edinburgh when she was in. I should have downloaded that picture of you looking like a hobbit and shared it. That was awesome. By Loch Ness, wasn't it?
Yeah. I got to go to Scotland on a study abroad, and I'm in Scotland. I'm in all of these beautiful hills. I went to a bunch of castle ruins, so I took a lot of photos of me dressed like a hobbit at these ruins.
And I'm also going to mention that this is before Ed himself had ever gone abroad.
Yes.
So he's living vicariously for his daughter for this trip.
In October. I was fine. Yeah, I was going to have a good time. I'm also smoking my Tolkien tobacco, or the tobacco that we know that Tolkien smoked, this Navy cut capstan blue. So it's all on theme for me today. Sophie, since you're new to this show, at least, or to being on the show, tell everybody about your Tolkien story.
Well, it started with you when I was, we think, 8 or 9.
Yeah, I'm not sure the age.
Yeah. But you read The Hobbit aloud to me and Lulu, my younger sister,
this copy with the Michael Haig illustrations.
And we right before this, we were actually debating which copy of the book he read aloud to us, and I knew it was this one because I remembered there was a drawing of an illustration of the spiders.
Yeah,
terrified me.
They're terrifying.
Stuck in my brain forever.
That's the Michael. Yeah.
But yeah, you read The Hobbit aloud to us when we were Lulu would have been 6 and 7, and I was 8 and 9. I truly just remember having my mind blown by this book. I didn't see, being so young, I didn't see any of the foreshadowing. I didn't know anything about Lord of the Rings as a whole. I didn't know anything about these characters or about the ring. But I was just fully feeling everything that was happening in the book. I remember sitting on the floor in the living room laughing. I remember crying. I was so fully swept away by this book. It truly blew my mind and became my favorite book forever.
And one of the things I remember, and it's one of the reasons why I thought these chapters were going to be appropriate, and we'll talk about, we'll get into this in detail later, but just for now to mention to people, to give the preview of it, is when Bilbo gives the Arkenstone away, you literally gasped out loud, like, and I never forgot it. And it was a moment where, well, now we'll talk about it later, but like that moment stuck, like you really, got, so we're going to recreate it later. When I read that part later, when we hit that in the chapter, you can gasp. So that's why she'll gasp later, everyone. And you didn't see the movies, the Hobbit movies, until this came out, but also, unlike most people your age, you didn't even see the Lord of the Ring movies until you had read the books.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to talk about here. She's so unique for her generation, right? We were talking about this a little bit before we came on to the recording, and I kind of want you to do this, Sophie, because so many people of your age and your generation like came to the movies first, which is fine, right?
Yeah.
But you were committed not to, because of your understanding, you're reading, you're wanting to read it with your father like beforehand.
Yeah, because most people my age had seen the movies. I remember friends in high school mentioned these movies, and I said I had
The Lord of the Rings movies. Yeah.
the Lord of the Rings movies, not the Hobbit movies yet. We got to see those in theaters long after reading.
Because you had already experienced the book. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I had friends who, when I told them I hadn't seen the movies, they were just shocked. They were like, "But this is so up your alley. You would love this." And I said, "I know, but I'm reading the books." Probably it was around that time. It was in high school that you were reading Lord of the Rings aloud to me and Lulu. We got what through we did we get through the first full book?
Yeah, we yes, because and that's it. Because and what I was hoping is I was going to read Lord of the Rings, and then you guys would then read it on your own. You would take over and then read it, and we read till they got to just about when they got to Lorien. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Gandalf chapters, I was just like completely crying the whole chapter.
There was a lot.
Yeah.
But I continued reading it.
Yes.
And read the rest of them in my first year of college.
So here's my question for you. I mean, in a sense, you experienced The Hobbit, and The Hobbit especially, in a way like Tolkien's kids did. Like they heard it before they even read it, and before obviously they saw anything else. But
yeah,
what is that like coming back to it now?
This is, I think, my first time fully reading it on my own, actually. I think I've gone back to it and read bits and pieces of it, but I've never read the entire book start to finish on my own without you reading it aloud. So it's also really different now because I know how the story goes, but when you read it aloud to us, the book lends itself so well to that, with the little bits and pieces of the first person narrator as if telling a story to someone. And I know Tolkien says he thinks that kids think that that's condescending. I didn't. I don't remember thinking that was condescending at all.
It works really well. We've talked about this from a narratology point of view. Direct discourse is a thing that he was trying to do that comes from older tales, that operates really well. And he's trying to give that to his kids. But he, somewhere along the way, realized that that almost sometimes made it seem like he was talking down to them. It's also really great that this book has all these, anachronisms in them, where it's like the sound of a train coming through the tunnel, or as black as a top hat, which has nothing to do with Bilbo's culture, but everything to do with the people he's speaking to. It's a unique thing of direct discourse that he decided to let go in The Lord of the Rings. Do as much, but it works really well orally. It works
does
really well when it's read to you.
It does, and I think it also helps that we commit so hard to the bit. Like, Dad, you would sing the songs.
Oh yeah,
make
songs
up
have
melodies.
to. It's a song, and I'm just like on the spot, suddenly singing. I don't know even what.
Yeah, and you do different voices for the characters, and when Gandalf blows smoke rings, you attempt to.
Yeah.
Is anyone else surprised to hear this about Ed reading?
I'm not. That I smoked all over my kids. No.
But it was just so. it became so immersive, you reading it out loud, and I think that just lends so well to this book.
That's a good word, that immerse, because I think that's something that oral culture can really do. But in books do it too. You can be immersed in a book, but you're immersed inside your head. But when this kind of oral retelling of stories or reading of stories out loud, it really becomes a communal experience. I mean, a community of three for us, and sometimes mom was with us, or maybe one of your older sisters was with us too.
The bardic tradition of oral culture is community.
Yeah.
In its nutshell. So the audience might change, and the audience might he may have changed the audience in terms of how he thought about it for Lord of the Rings. But when this book came out, of how he presented it to his children, and that felt right at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of why it's my favorite book, is because of the communal experience of you reading aloud to us, me and Lulu reacting the whole time and feeling it all so fully. I think that really adds to why it's my favorite. Also because, I mean, as I think we all know, it's one of the best books ever.
How could it not be? Anything stand out for you this time around that
just things that my memory had altered some. And I think part of this is because of the movies, which is strange because I've really only seen them once.
Saw them I mean, did you ever watch them on video, or you only saw them in the theaters when they came out and that was it?
Yeah, we saw them in the theaters, and that's it. I mean, and they were fun. We were discussing earlier how they have flaws, but
everyone loves the Hobbit movies.
Yeah.
I invited Sophie to throw the shade where she wants to, that Ed seldom does.
Well, but when Sophie watched it first, you can confirm this or not. So, when she saw them in the theaters, they were like the greatest movies that she had ever seen.
Oh yeah.
At that age, knew it was like, oh my God, I can't believe how great this is.
And because I hadn't seen The Lord of the Rings yet, this was my first time seeing any Tolkien on screen ever. So having this world brought to life was revolutionary for my brain. And then I read The Lord of the Rings and I see those movies and I realize that those actually are the greatest movies of all time.
That's why there's a whole generation of kids who love J.R.R. Binks. They think he is the greatest part of that, of those Star Wars movies, because that was their experience first time and they loved it.
There's a thing that interesting here, and I want to get us into the book eventually, but I'm sorry. That every new iteration of Star Trek is Star Trek for a new generation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everything about it isn't about the generation that has been following it for years, although it might build upon that. It's for a new generation, and so it starts from there. And there is a thing that that creates great content from building on the old content and bringing it forward, and parsing it out for that new generation. And sometimes that really works really well. And so Star Trek's been here for 60 years. We should praise that. But there's also, there's things about Star Wars where things were made for this generation of moviegoer, and then 2 and 3 years later for a younger generation of moviegoer. So that by the time you even got to something like, Return of the Jedi, you were like, really? Another fucking Death Star?
That wasn't it. It was Ewoks that bugged me at that age.
Ewoks were Ewoks were a pretension about selling toys.
Ewoks weren't for me.
They were expected, like in the original drafts, they were that was supposed to be Wookiees. but they didn't do it that way because they sell toys.
It shifted.
Things generationally change. That's
shifted to Tolkien. Yes. And
okay, to shift to Tolkien, this is what happened with The Hobbit. He wrote The Hobbit as a children's book, and then 30 years later, writes an entirely different now trilogy that is for an entirely different age group, an entirely different generation. And then that happens when they make the cartoon movie, and then they make the Lord of the Rings movies, and then they make the Hobbit movies. So this is a story. This happens with many franchises, including Lord of the Rings, and I think Lord of the Rings does it generally really well.
Yes.
All righty. I look forward to new Lord of the Rings things coming out. So one day, I'll see them all. All righty. A lot has happened in the book since the last episode. In the last episode, Smaug flies to Lake Town, so the dwarves get to have some fun with their treasure, a little treasure party. Bilbo finds the Arkenstone, but he didn't tell anybody. And then we learned how Smaug attacked Esgaroth. Bard killed him because the thrush told him what Bilbo had told. Bilbo found the secret of the spot on the chest, and the thrush told Bard. And then the elves join up with the men in Lake Town and Esgaroth to go get the treasure, because obviously the dwarves must be dead. They wouldn't have survived Smaug there. So, all righty. Chapter 15, The Gathering of the Clouds. I like this nice ominous, storm coming title to the chapter. Now we will return to Bilbo and the dwarves. Remember, he shifted these chapters around. He initially had the attack on Lake Town first, and then the hobbits, and then the dwarves and the hobbits, and then so here he switched those two chapters, and now he's got to add this line about coming back to them. They don't know what has happened with Smaug yet, but they see these birds gathering ever more thickly. The birds were gathering. Something strange is happening, said Thorin. There's many carrion birds, as if a battle were afoot, he sees. And then the thrush returns. There's that old thrush again, says Bilbo. And then the thrush shows up. He fluttered his wings and sang. Then he cocked his head on one side as if to listen, and again he sang, and again he listened. I believe he is trying to tell us something, said Balin. Can you make it out, Baggins? Not very well, said Bilbo. As a matter of fact, he could make nothing of it at all. I love that little bit there, right? That, the narrator even lets us know that Bilbo's like, I'm not quite sure, but he has zero idea.
He so think he's the leader that he'll just be able to hear the language of birds.
Or is he still trying to impress the dwarves?
I think he is. I think he's always trying to prove himself to the dwarves.
Yeah.
I think at this point they just had to flee from the mountain because the dragon was destroying them. They had to run inside, and now they're escaping. Yeah, I think he still does want to prove himself as a burglar who can do this. And now they're putting so much more leadership on him. We've seen in the last chapters, we saw them.
He became the leader, yes.
Yeah, they were turning to him for answers, for plans. So he can't let that drop now.
Yeah, he's still on there. There's a thing that happens in this like paragraph before, where Balin says, I cannot follow the speech of such birds. Is very quick and difficult. Can you make it out? And Balin is the one who understands the speech of birds. Balin's the older scholar within this whole group. Balin, sorry, it's got to rhyme with Thorin. There's a thing about birds within Tolkien where every bird is somehow distrustful other than an eagle. Yet
They're still distrustful too. They don't trust anybody. They only do.
Well, the dwarves don't, but
themselves.
For most people in Middle Earth, they don't trust. I don't want to do Lord of the Rings and the Craven and all that sort of stuff. But birds are not good things generally, except for the eagles.
And ravens, as a whole in culture, are seen as bringers of doom. They don't bring good omens.
Yeah. And there's things about that echo back to the Swedish tales, right? That's great, and so when the ravens actually come, Balin can understand them.
Yeah, well, they have a history with them, the dwarves and the ravens. But Tolkien is, well, first Balin tells us the difference between crows and ravens. The crows are just nasty name callers. But ravens have a history with the dwarves, and this is kind of, Tolkien is aware of the raven's importance in this Old Norse mythology. Odin had a couple of ravens that would go around in the world and give him news, and that's what the dwarves here use the ravens for, to go out and spread messages and bring the news back to us. They're not just like an animal species here sharing space. They're connected. They have a relationship with the dwarves in this world, or did in the past, and now that they've returned, this relationship can be established again. And
when Roäc comes, the old raven, he speaks in the language of men.
Yeah, which also ravens can do. Ravens can imitate human speech much like a parrot does. They can't, recite full paragraphs.
They can't talk. I mean, they don't have language, but they can.
Parroting. Yeah.
And if anybody has never seen a raven speak, go look it up on YouTube. It's uncanny, because it's not like the parrot, they sound like people, and it is so disconcerting.
Yeah.
Because they're not moving their beaks like a person would to make the sounds, but it's coming out like all the syllables and the sounds. It's real, and hence this is why Poe chose a raven for for his poem.
I'm glad you're going to underline this bit for you to go to Poe, because
there you go. So I mean, and Poe gets it from Dickens. Dickens has a novel called Barnaby Rudge, in which there's a talking raven in it, and this raven, the only word it ever speaks is nobody, and Barnaby will ask it a question and it'll say nobody. And Poe read this, reviewed Barnaby Rudge. We know that this is, he's connected to that novel. He knows what it was. And then Poe has a raven that says nevermore. That raven in the Dickens novel, this is a total, we're deep down the rabbit hole, people.
That's a good rabbit hole, Ed. Go.
In Dickens's novel in Barnaby Rudge is named Grip, and Dickens owned a pet raven named Grip. He actually owned like 3 ravens, and this was Grip 1, I think. And it spoke. And maybe it said nobody. That we don't know. But then he used Grip in the novel. Grip wound up dying. Grip was also nasty. He used to bite everybody, so they had to lock it up in a shed on the property because it kept biting everyone. And then it ate lead paint in the shed and died. But Dickens loved it, so he had it stuffed and kept it. And that stuffed bird, Grip, is now at the Free Library of Philadelphia. You can go see Grip. It is there in their rare book department.
And you've taken me to see Grip before, and it's a bird. I mean, as a kid, it actually freaked me out. I don't want to see a dead
and they're huge
bird as a child.
I mean, they're huge ravens, and you look in this glass case, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, they're really big. So yes, and terrifying.
This is the legacy knowledgeable people give to their children.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yes. Oh, their stories. We won't get into that.
Yeah, I was waiting. I was about to say and he's in Philadelphia, and Grip is in Philadelphia, but
yeah,
you were.
Oh no, I was going there for a reason. So
But they can speak here, and this is, and Roäc shows up, and or Roäc, maybe we would say his name is.
See what I mean? How we commit to the bit. Imagine hearing the entire book with every character getting these great voices.
He's the son of old and he comes and the thrush gets him and he flies, but he's 153 years old, decrepit, getting blind, could hardly fly, top of his head was bald, an aged raven of great size. And I love how he starts very formally with Thorin. This is the relationship these ravens have with the dwarves. O Thorin, son of Thrain, and Balin, son of Fundin, he croaked. And Bilbo could understand what he said, for he used ordinary language and not bird speech, as one of you said. They he tells him that Smaug is dead, and then there's much rejoicing. But he says, I have two things to tell you. Great tidings in the south. Some are tidings of joy, and some you will not think so good. First, Smaug's dead. They spring up. They began to caper about for joy. So doing a little dwarf dances there. Woohoo! And then sometime before Thorin could bring the dwarves to be silent and listen to the Raven's news, he does that. And then finally, so much for joy, Thorin Oakenshield. You may go back to your halls in safety. All the treasure is yours for the moment. He tells him that the legend of the wealth of Thror has not lost in the telling during many years. Many are eager for a share of the spoil. Already a host of elves is on the way, and carrion birds are with them, hoping for battle and slaughter. By the lake men murmur that their sorrows are, but the lake men murmur that their sorrows are due to the dwarves, for they are homeless and many have died, and Smaug has destroyed their town. They too think to find amends from your treasure, whether you are alive or dead. So the second news is the treasure's yours for the moment, because everybody's coming for it.
Keep it if you can.
And the elves, because they want the legendary treasure, and we know this, and the men because they have suffered, and and they need the treasure. He also gives him advice. He says, if you'll take my counsel, you will not trust the master of the lake men, but rather him that shot the dragon with his bow. Bard is he, of the race of Dale, of the line of Girion. He is a grim man. He cannot get away from calling him grim, but true. And we would see peace once more. And then Roäc says we would see peace once more among dwarves and men and elves after the long desolation, but it may cost you dear in gold. Mm-hmm. We, meaning the ravens, but also I think people in general, would like to see peace between these three races here, men, dwarves, and elves, once again, which is the hint that this is an unpeaceful world. You guys are always fighting amongst yourselves, especially for treasure.
Yeah. And the elves and dwarves don't get along, and it seems that the men and dwarves and the men and elves seem to mostly get along, but not right now. But I did also I wanted to bring up, I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and rereading this also reminded me how much Dungeons and Dragons lore comes from Lord of the Rings. It's written in the player's handbook that elves and dwarves don't tend to get along. It's there's a halfling race, which are hobbits. So that's also definitely been at the forefront of my mind with this read through.
Yeah, did you say this? You even mentioned that when I said on the show that the hobbits should have a thing called luck on their character sheet, and they do, right?
They do. Yeah, halflings you have to be a halfling to get this special feat, this special ability called luck, which allows you to re-roll every is it re-roll, or can you use one? Maybe to get one automatic 20 a day. If you want, you can change a single roll to a 20. You can
Bilbo
pass.
has had so many 20s, man.
So many. And so many that shouldn't have been. It really was like, no, you needed to re-roll to get that because you have no skill. You have no advantages.
Well, Bilbo has in the language of D&D, which I don't speak that well, but I play other like role-playing games. He has plot armor, right? And so things happen because it has to happen for him, you know. Plot armor is, oh, I got conked on the head during the big battle, and so therefore I didn't get killed because I'm not a warrior, even though I would have been. So we see plot armor as a Tolkienian device throughout this book and others. You know, he uses it often, and I
But
think
he writes it off as luck. It was luck of the hobbits a lot.
yeah, sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's just a device, right? I often tell people that when they're reading The Hobbit that you know, this is a book written for kids, so the bigger battles and the bloodshed are not going to be there because the lead character is going to get conked on the head and not have to.
I don't know when that would happen. I have no idea what you're talking about.
You're kidding, right?
No, we haven't gotten to that chapter yet.
That chapter with the goblins. He got conked on the head, and he didn't have to experience any of that. He fell down, and
what I find interesting is that this idea of it comes up so much that for me it's more than a device. For me, it is thematic, and that he keeps coming back to it. And what I find most interesting is that it's not necessarily providence. It is, although I think Tolkien believes in providence and has an idea of that you can find in his books and even in this one, but he singles out this idea of luck and he keeps mentioning it. And Bilbo is lucky and has this that keeps serving him all through. And I think in the end, it's one of the reasons why Gandalf chose him.
So wait, I realize I'm holding this from the book, but why is luck not providence within Tolkien's writing?
I think it's different. I think providence is there is a greater God controlling the events. And I'm not sure that's always evident in this, especially if you just read the text. He doesn't always hold true to that. And that luck winds up being something different than providence, that it is literally this thing that happens to Bilbo, not other people.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off.
Go.
Give me that for a minute. Yet, the wise within this book and within the others that are to come often say, luck, should you call it that?
Yeah, and he hasn't written that or come up with that idea yet, I don't think. I think in The Hobbit, he's really relying on luck, and it's the luck of this character. And it becomes a thing it becomes a skill on a character sheet, is what it's become. Not that he understands, that he would know what that is, but that's, I think that's the best descriptor of what's luck actually is. It is a skill that Bilbo has that he doesn't know why he has it, or like any skill you might have, you just have it naturally, and he has it.
Yeah, because I think providence and fate come in a lot more in Lord of the Rings.
I'll come in later.
There's no examples in this book I can really think of for that isn't like truly sheer dumb luck.
And we'll see at the end. Let's see as it finishes too, because there's still some incidents to finish up here.
I like that because I think what's presented in this book as luck is considered dumb luck, right? But he specifies what luck is, within his questions of faith when he starts writing the bigger, broader part of his universe. And it's certainly already there in stuff that he's already written in the Silmarillion. We're not going there. I know that. I get that. But yeah, like he's writing about luck and telling it to a childhood audience. But he believes, even though he doesn't state it necessarily, that luck is providence.
He's also very influenced by this idea of fate in Old English texts, which is definitely, well, not definitely, which doesn't line up with especially Christian providence all the time, and it's really hard to define actually. And so I know he's influenced by that as well. But let's move.
These are the details that we can go
Ravens have kept them. Well, Thorin's reaction to all this is, he's just angry. No one is going to steal our gold, he says. None of our gold shall thieves take or the violent carry off while we are alive. That's what he sees right away. Somebody's going to steal my gold? No, they're not. And
because it doesn't seem violent. Like, as far as he knows, they aren't trying to steal from them. The people think he's dead.
The Raven said that he says it's a host. That means it's an army. And he also says the birds are hoping for battle and slaughter. So
right.
He's kind of hinted at him that, like, there's an army coming to take your gold.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Now, what Thorin doesn't know is that they don't even know he's alive.
Yeah.
You know that. The Ravens don't know that either. But so Thorin sends, he tells Roäc to send other younger messengers, like, thankfully, like, no, old guy, you need to fly like hundreds of miles to our kin in the mountains of the north to get his cousin Dane in the Iron Hills. And that'll teach him. All these dwarves will show up ready for battle.
Yeah.
Bilbo thinks, back to the mountain, Thorin says, we have little time to lose and little food to use, cried Bilbo. Always practical on such points. In any case, he felt that the adventure was, properly speaking, over with the death of the dragon. Wait. What are we going to do here? We're going to go to the mountain, get revenge on the dragon, and get the treasure back.
Done. We finished it.
We're done. There's no more chapters in this book. Bilbo says, we're done. But no, there are. So
again, read the rest of that sentence, in which he was much mistaken.
Yes.
And he would have given most of his share of the profits for the peaceful winding up.
Most.
Theirs.
Most.
Not all.
Not giving all of it up. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, he wind up, he does, but he's right now, he's just most still.
The birds, I will say the birds are saying that there is an army coming to take the gold, but Thorin's still reacting with such anger. It feels like he wants a war. He's like, I am going to fight for this. Yeah. And
we'll talk about how he reacts later too. But I kind of think now that, like, he has been through all this, and we got it. I mean, he's been waiting his whole life, and they've been through a lot to get there and to achieve it. Now, I think his biggest fault right here is he doesn't think, like, oh, they killed the dragon for us. So that's what he's missing, is that someone actually helped him.
Yeah, it just feels like, guys, we can talk. I think that diplomacy is still totally an option now. Yes, they're on their way to the mountain. They're not here yet. We have ravens who will deliver messages for us. They could have sent a message and been like, hey Dale, just so you know we're alive, or hey Bard, we're alive, just so you know, you can come over and we can talk. No, doesn't happen.
Fortify the gate. Fortify the gates. Send the ravens out to get keep them informed. They learn that there are still some ponies left, so Philly and Killy go out and are able to track those ponies down that weren't eaten by Smaug and get some supplies. So they still just have cram to eat, which
I actually think that this is the first example of Thorin starting to suffer from dragon sickness, because he doesn't send ravens to negotiate. He said, we're just going to go back and we're going to hold our fort.
It feels like a dragon keeping its hoard. Like, no, we're going to hole up in this mountain and keep all of the gold to ourselves, even if it means we stay in here
dragon
forever.
Sickness that he was infected with from the.
We're definitely going to hit dragon sickness in a bit. Well, the text does as well. But then the dwarves, before long, they could see both men of the lake armed as if for war, and elvish bowmen were among them, and they come up, and Thorin hails them. Who are you that come as if in war to the gates of Thorin, son of Thrain, king under the mountain? I mean, that's this long title that he has to, and I love it that he does it. And what do you desire? And they're like, whoa, he's here. They don't say anything. They run back. Some of them look. And then, I've made a point about how unheroic and ordinary the dwarves behave in this novel. Like Tolkien kind of deflates their mythic status as a mythical, being, these dwarves. But we've definitely had a change here. And it's not just right here. Thorin's been gradually building to this. Like he keeps showing glimpses of it. And just a couple chapters ago, when they come in for their treasure, when Smaug is gone, and this is where I think Thorin has already taken his final step in becoming what he was already saying he was, king under the mountain. He was saying that in Lake Town, but he was all bedraggled and like, really, are you king of the mountain? In chapter 13, the lines are, now the dwarves took down mail and weapons from the walls and armed themselves. Royal indeed did Thorin look, clad in a coat of gold-plated rings, with a silver-hafted axe and a belt crusted with scarlet stones. Royal indeed did he look, is what it says. And that's the Thorin that's here now. And he is, and getting I think it's not only dragon sickness. Thorin is now the king under the mountain. And he wants people to recognize him as king under the mountain. This recon party that comes up and just looks and all, they're not, that's what he wants them to see as he's saying that. They go back, and now the music from the camp that Bilbo and the dwarves hear, right? The rocks echoed then with voices and with song as they had not done for many of the day. There was the sound, too, of elven harps and of sweet music. And the music sounds like a fragrance, the fragrance of woodland flowers blossoming in the spring. That's just beautiful writing. And that's just to mix these senses here as to what's going on. You could hear this music, but you smell the spring. Bilbo and the dwarves, not Thorin, they want to go join that. They Bilbo longed to escape from the dark fortress, go down and join in the mirth and the feasting of the fire. Some of the younger dwarves were moved in their hearts too. This is likely Philly and Killy, and maybe some others. And they muttered that they muttered, don't say it out loud, muttered that they wished things had fallen out otherwise, and that they might welcome such folks as friends.
Yeah, if the dwarves have just
Yeah.
But Thorin scowled. Go ahead, so.
The dwarves just, Bilbo said, we won our mission, guys. Dragon's gone. We have the gold. So why does it feel like they are the ones trapped? Why does it feel like the dwarves are the ones imprisoned in this mountain still when the dragon isn't even there?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so then we're given a really great new iteration. I'm not sure if we've talked about this, but the many iterations of the dwarf song are exciting because they keep the same lyrical meter, right? Yet at the same time, they tell the events as they are right now.
Yeah. They sing their own song now. So this is a follow-up to the #1 hit, Far Over the Misty Mountains Cold. Coming in now is Under the Mountain Dark and Tall.
So they basically do this thing where it's like, oh, same song, right? But here's
it shares a lot of words and some lines. There's a couple lines here and there that are identical to the earlier song that they sung at Bilbo's in chapter 1.
And I like the mountain throne once more is freed.
Yeah.
Oh, wandering folk, the summons heed, come haste, across the waste. The king of friend as kin has need. Because they're already like, oh, whoa, we got the mountain back, so we need to defend it now.
It is. It's well, the first song in chapter 1 was about how the dragon took away their kingdom and how they're going to take it back. And now the song is the dwarves are back. Dwarves are back in town. And they are but it also says those lines you read there, like, come to the mountain and help us, and we will give you gold. We will share our gold with you. So it's odd. It's defiant. And yet in the song, Thorin is seeming to be say, or in the dwarf song, it seems to say that, like, well, if you guys just came, like, we'll help you, the dwarves would have been okay with it, which is something that a proud king like him is this proud, dominant. He wants to be the king.
The king is come unto his hall, under the mountains dark and tall. The worm of dread is slain and dead.
Yeah.
Ever so our foes shall fall.
Yeah. Like, oh, you mean ever so someone else will kill your dragon for you? Like, Thorin doesn't grasp this point. You guys the dwarves didn't kill the dragon, right?
Yeah.
But he tells all the other dwarves, come on, man. We killed a dragon. Come here.
His hands are rich with gems and gold that you have allowed us because you killed our dragon to take. But that's not in Thorin's mind at all. He's blocking that.
But Bilbo still, after this, sure, they're singing, sure, they brought out instruments, but Bilbo still says after this song, but Bilbo's heart fell both at the song and the talk. They sounded much too warlike.
Yeah.
These songs that they're hearing from the elves do not sound warlike. They sound like they're celebrating. So, so the dwarves think.
Well, that's the song and the talk from the dwarves that he thinks sounds much too warlike. I don't know.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They still aren't celebrating. They're prepping for war. They're hyping themselves up for a possible battle. They're not celebrating their victory.
Well, Thorin's not wrong, because then up the next morning, marching up the valley, a company of spearmen and the banners of the Elven King and the blue banner of the lake. I mean, they come armed under banners. This is an army coming to tell you to face you. And I mean, I think if Thorin's just being cautious, then that's a good idea. He doesn't know what's coming here. But it's Bard that comes up first. Grim. He's grim of face.
Is he grim?
Grim of face. He's very grim.
So he's so grim.
His name is literally Bard Grim Girion. So that's his name, actually. So his middle name is Grim. Barg Girion. And Hail Thorin, why do you fence yourself like a robber in his hold? We are not yet foes, and we rejoice that you are alive beyond our hope. We came expecting to find none living here, and yet now that we are met, there is matter for a parley and a council. And then he goes in and tells them who he is and all that stuff. And basically, in points, he says, we're not foes. Now we know you're alive, so let's talk. Then he says, I slew Smaug, and I'm the heir of Girion of Dale. So some of the treasure is actually mine, because it's literally some of the treasure was from Dale. Lake Town was destroyed in the fighting of Smaug, and I have a duty to help them. And finally, will you please help those who helped you and who now need help? And even the narrator says, then we get the narrator. Now these words were fair and true, if proudly and grimly spoken. Yes, speaking grimly because that's his middle name.
But the narrator also tells us, but also he did not reckon with the power that gold has upon which a dragon has long brooded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nor with dwarvish hearts.
Yeah. Before that, Bilbo assumes there's going to be justice, right? So
that's what I was gonna say. Yeah. You know, Bilbo thought that Thorin would at once admit what justice was in them. And this is when I really think that the dragon sickness is there.
Okay.
Is clearly there because now Thorin is clearly making decisions that he wouldn't typically make. Bilbo knows Thorin now, and
I want you to read this passage with dragon sickness. Well, first Bilbo says, like, well, nobody's going to remember that I actually told him how to kill the dragon, which is funny, because nobody does ever. But but also he did not reckon. Read that to the end of the paragraph.
But also he did not reckon with the power that gold has upon which a dragon has long brooded, nor with dwarvish hearts. Long hours in the past days Thorin had spent in the treasury, and the lust of it was heavy on him. Though he had hunted chiefly for the Arkenstone, yet he had an eye for many another wonderful thing that was lying there, about which were wound old memories of the labors and the sorrows of his race.
Okay. So
the rest of that paragraph. Rest of the paragraph, let her do that because that's really good.
Yeah. Oh, that was the end of it.
That's at the end of the paragraph.
Yeah.
That's the end of the paragraph.
Stars of his race.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Dragon sickness is it's like four things here. It is number one, the power of the gold or treasure upon which a dragon has brooded.
Mm-hmm.
Like dragon's laid on this treasure, so now that is the power of that is that. Two, dwarvish hearts. Now, again, I'm going to take us back 2 chapters. Chapter 13. The mere fleeting glimpses of treasure which they had caught as they went along had rekindled all the fire of their dwarvish hearts. And when the heart of a dwarf, even the most respectable, is weakened by gold and by jewels, he grows suddenly bold, and he may become fierce. So that's another part of his dragon sickness. It's not just the gold what the dragon was on, it's the dwarvish heart. And then we learned that Thorin has also been spending a lot of time with the treasure, looking for the Arkenstone. And number 4, this treasure represents to him, it's not just treasure. It is the labor and sorrows of his race, of his culture, of his people. And I think it's complicated, this idea of dragon sickness, and which I had never thought of until this. If you had asked me before this read through, I'd have been like, yeah, dragon sickness. A dragon's treasure causes that, and it's like an illness you kind of get. But in the way he's written about it here, it's really complicated. It's not just some kind of magic curse like a spell, right? There are factors which create this dragon sickness. And some people feel it a little bit, like Bilbo felt a little bit with the Arkenstone, and when he first saw the treasure, but then he got over it. But he doesn't have a dwarvish heart. And he certainly doesn't, this treasure doesn't represent anything to him other than something that they were going to go and get, that some people once had. So all these factors come in here. And I that was a monologue, but I almost feel like it almost excuses Thorin for me. Like I've never felt this before. I've always felt like Thorin is so wrong, and now I'm looking at this and it's like, well, he might be wrong, but why wouldn't he be wrong? Like, how could he not be wrong with all these factors playing against him at this point?
It 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 definitely feels to me that he's been undertaken by a spell. I think that yes, all of these factors are big. I do think that the biggest, I don't know, maybe this is also just because I had always thought this, that I didn't really think about all those other factors before.
Well, I read it to you and told you that too.
Yeah, so but yeah, I guess just thinking also in how a lot of other powerful objects in Tolkien's works.
And they ain't in this book.
I know. They're not in this book, but I think that I always thought of this as the same thought process as that the power of these objects, the power of this gold, it has infected him.
Yeah.
I don't want to underscore what Sophie's going to say as we go on the next chapter about the Arkenstone. But the Christian quality of forgiveness is hugely important in this chapter.
Yeah. And he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And that's what we get in his response now. His response is, well, your worst cause is last. Like the treasure of my people, no man has a claim. Like, I don't have to help anybody, is what he says. The treasure is ours. Smaug stole it from us. Because it's ours, and he stole it from us, just because he wrecked your house doesn't mean you get any of it. Treasure was not Smaug. Like, he repeats it. Treasure was not Smaug's. We'll pay you back for your supplies and help. And as long as you are here armed, you get nothing. And then he does the worst thing. He says, like, would you have given us anything if the tables were turned, right? What share of their inheritance you would have paid to our kindred had you found the hoard unguarded and us slain?
Yeah.
That is the most unreasonable thing that he says, because, well, it's unreasonable for him to refuse to help those who suffered, obviously, especially the guy who killed Smaug for him.
And the guy that the Raven said, hey, you can trust this guy. Don't trust the mayor, but you can trust Bard.
Raven's
this guy has a good heart.
A wise old counselor from the old days, and he tells him this. And I don't think it's unreasonable for him to say, you're an army. I'm not giving you anything as long as you're an army. But that last point, what would you have done in the tables turned? That's what's really dangerous. That's the hypothetical that has not happened, and it's stated to make them, the men and elves, who have done or would have done something wrong, but they haven't. So what he's doing is just what the master did in the town, in those dwarves, is there like that breeding fear, like something like, no, it didn't happen, but that's what is going on.
So if we're gonna do the master stuff, I'd also like to talk about, as we do this and as we move to what Bilbo is about to do, the idea of a transactional politic, right? That oh, well, you want this, we'll give you this. Well, we'll make it transactional, and therefore it'll be fine. And Thorin doesn't. He's not transactional. We're here. We're the king under the mountain. We own this. I don't care what happened to you. We own this. I might give you stuff for all the stuff you gave us to get here, but I will not answer your threats or your obligations about, you know, what you deserve of the treasure, which is essentially ours. You know, he will not become involved in a transactional element.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he wants to pay them back, like, oh, we'll pay you back for all for the service, for everything you helped, for the supplies that you gave us to get
Sure,
here.
the ponies, the ride up the lake, all that sort of shit.
Yeah, but that. He's still not going to do that until they're not an army anymore.
But he doesn't believe
that
they have any right to his inheritance. And this is even outside of dragon sickness, I think.
Uh-huh.
You know, I think this is just how dwarves are, right? They're like, no, just because you think we're dead, you don't get to march in here and then take from us.
I think comparing what he's saying to how the master was talking is a really good point, because it is also that prideful need to stay in power. He's been telling everyone over and over again this mantra, I am the king under the mountain, I've come back.
Yeah. And he is. And now he literally is. He's there. The dragon's dead. He is the king under the mountain, whether or not he can maintain that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's great. I want to go there for a minute, and I realize it's going to take us longer. He's always been the king under the mountain.
Yeah. But now he finally has that.
He always believed he was going to come into his own.
Now that he has that, he feels he needs to fight to keep that. He has this pride that it can't be negotiated either, just like the master did. The master was making bold claims and using manipulative rhetoric, just like Thorin is, to try to get people on his side.
Speaking of hypotheticals, imagine if the master was here. There'd be a deal. He would have managed to make a deal. He would have managed to there's going to be a big battle. That's probably not going to turn out so well. Let me make a deal. He can't. Bard is not. Bard is a warrior. Bard is grim. Bard is not going to make it. Now, the master would have been wrong or whatever he did. He would try to trick people. He made sure he come out, selfish reasons for his own. But he would have been able to make a deal.
I kind of disagree with that.
Bard can't make a deal.
I think that Bard can't make a deal. I think that's right. But I think that the master's been thrown to the side for a very important reason about how do we negotiate who is ownership, right? And Bard has a great justification.
Well, and that's the justification. That's the word you're using there. Bard is concerned with justice, and he even says a just question to what Thorin has said. Bard is concerned with what's right and what's wrong here. The master wouldn't have been concerned with that. The master would have been concerned with how can I get the money, and he would have been willing to give certain money.
He has a justification of like what the horde should pay towards his people, right? He didn't expect for the dwarves to be alive, and so when they are, he's like, oh, that's great, good for you. Yet still you have some obligation towards our help,
but he does try a little to make a deal, but it really is more of a demand.
And let's get to that. Let's get to that in a moment, because first I want to hit our mid break a little late. And so I can make our announcement too. But let me take this moment to thank all of you for watching this episode. As a nonprofit organization, the Rosenbach Museum and Library depends on the generosity of friends and supporters like you to keep programs like this free and accessible to thousands of fellow Biblioventures. Yes, and fellow Biblioventurers worldwide. I hope you will consider supporting the Rosenbach and the show by donation, which you can do at our website, or by becoming a member. Membership gives you free museum admission and discounts on programs and courses and early access to registration. You can learn more about how to become a member on our website. Thanks, as always, to the Wingcode Foundation for supporting the Rosenbach. But wait, I have another way for you to help support the Rosenbach. There are only 2 more episodes left in The Hobbit that we're doing. So what will we do next? Well, as the past 2 Biblioventures have been followed by a special paid subscription-only show, Sherlock Mondays was followed by Hound of the Baskerville Show, Monsters and Ghosts was followed by Picture of Dorian Gray. We're going to have some extra paid content that you can watch following The Hobbit. And here it is. Before The Hobbits, there was Beowulf and dragons and fairy stories. And what we're gonna do is run a show called Biblioventures, Tolkien, Beowulf, and Fairy, with Professors Michael D.C. Drought and Corey Olsen, the Tolkien professor himself. It will be 4 episodes. It'll be the 4 Mondays following this show from 7 to 9 p.m. So it's the same time slot, the same, format, the 4 Mondays in May. You can register now. It is open to everyone. Let me click on the link here to make sure it works. Yes, it works. It is up there. I have opened I have successfully published the page. You can register now. The link is in our chat here. This program is subscription only, and it's only $100. Rosenbach members still get your 10% discount, but everyone can register at once here. There's no tiered registration for this because it's kind of unlimited. As many people we can have watch it. $100 for a live discussion with Michael Drought and Corey Olsen. The show will be the same format that we do here. So it will be for 2 episodes with myself and Michael Drought talking about Beowulf and Tolkien and Beowulf. And then 2 episodes of me talking with Corey Olsen about Tolkien works, other things Tolkien wrote, which I'll tell you in a second. But so it is, and you will be in the chat here on Zoom. This will be on Zoom. You won't watch this on YouTube. You'll get the Zoom link, and you'll be in the chat, here, and we will take questions, as much as possible the whole time that we're doing it. So you'll get to throw questions at us that we can talk about. So it's kind of the show that we do, but with you providing questions for us as we do it. And I'm still drinking and smoking and talking about Tolkien, but this time with other brilliant Tolkien scholars, and we get to answer your questions as we go along. The first episode will be on Beowulf itself, just Beowulf alone, and Michael Drought telling us all about Beowulf. And then the second episode will be about Tolkien and Beowulf, and obviously the great essay that Tolkien wrote on it, the monsters, Beowulf, the monsters and the critics, and Tolkien's own translation of Beowulf, which has been published. The third episode will be Corey Olsen, and we'll talk about Tolkien's essay on fairy stories, which it's kind of Tolkien's manifesto in a sense for how he approaches and what he sees as fantasy. And then the final episode, we're going to read Sir Orfeo. We're going to read Tolkien's translation of Sir Orfeo and talk about that. So it'll be a ton of fun. It's, Beowulf, more Tolkien. I can't imagine a more fun show to do. I hope you all love it, and I hope you will all sign up for it. And signing up help support the Rosenbach. We've done these. Well, by then we'll have done these, 14 episodes for free, and this helps us do this kind of thing, that you support this show. So
I have listened to Corey Olsen for years.
Me too. And when I got to meet him in a Zoom meeting, it was like, oh, it was so great.
He's marvelous and great.
Yeah.
Also, last year, Michael Drought did a Lord of the Rings.
We did a Lord of the Rings course at the Rosenbach, and Michael Drought taught, and it was just absolutely fabulous. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And he's the author of the new book, The Tower and the Ruin, which takes its name from Tolkien's essay about Beowulf, The
which I
Tower.
cannot suggest highly enough.
It's really fabulous.
But I will tell everybody that's on the course tonight that this is the deep dive stuff. If you really want to go there, Ed's provided it. He's brought it, and you should sign up for this because this is the real. It's great that we can do these things in a free and open environment, but this is the stuff that
I did tell Professor Drought. I said, we're talking about Beowulf, but people are going to ask about Tower and the Ruin, and obviously that's fine. So those questions will happen, and that will be completely fine. But it'll be a real fun show. I'm really hoping you guys who watch this regularly can afford to sign up for the new show. It will be only subscription only that it'll be available. You won't be able to watch it on your own for free. I won't put it on YouTube. So it's just so the people get to watch it. And when you register, you're able to watch it if you have to miss a night. You can the episodes will be available for you to watch up to 30 days after it ends. So they'll be available all through June for you to watch as well if you can't. If there's May.
How many episodes are there, Ed?
Just 4.
4.
Yeah.
I plan on reading Beowulf for the first time.
First time. That'll be fun. I had to figure out which copy I was going to give. I have I don't know, 10 translations of Beowulf, and which one am I giving?
Yeah, there's so many.
So you'll get one.
And I knew that there were a bajillion different ones, so I made sure to ask you, hey, which one do I read first? What is the first one I should read?
Yeah. So, well, to have these two, very prominent, very, distinguished Tolkien scholars to get to do this with us will be really great. So Dr. Sarah Brown, who's one of our co-hosts, works for Signum University. I mean, Corey Olson, as she always says, he's my boss. Corey Olson put together Signum University, a university where you can get a master's in Tolkien studies. He created that, and it is there. And I'm more than happy to help him promote that university because I think it's a great thing, and it's also a place that brings humanities to the people, something that we're really dedicated to at the Rosenbach as well. All right, people, sign up on now. The link's there. You can sign up. I'm hoping there'll be a lot of people signed up by tomorrow. So I'll see if I can time who's the first one to sign up. And if I can, I'll call you out. So, because I'm sure somebody has signed up for it already. All righty. We should get back to the text.
Chapter 16, A Thief in the Night.
We still need to finish this because we have to see what how Bard responds to Thorin saying, yeah, tough. Let's see.
Yeah, he doesn't really negotiate as the master probably would have, but he instead makes a demand saying that 1/12 of the treasure needs to be given.
Can I say, because they're probably watching, Lynn Bean, Jody Freeman, and Jennifer Spatia have already signed up. Thank you, Jennifer, Jody, and Lynn. So there you go. All righty. The Bard. Well, Bard, says you're just, but you're wrong. And he's basically, what about helping us? And Thorin, I don't know, doesn't want to, can't talk about this kind of thing. He just again reiterates the elves have to go, then lay down your arms. Now we're in a place where I'm like, yeah, Thorin, isn't that the king that has put you in a dungeon? And now he shows up here, and Bard you don't want your friends to be the guy that just put this guy in a dungeon when you're trying to, negotiate here. Um, and but Bard sticks to it because he is my friend. He helped my people, so he needs to be here with us. And from Thorin's point of view, this is a completely unjust request that Bard is making here. But from Bard's view, it's like, well, but I have to. Like,
There's no negotiation
yeah,
happening. Both of them are entirely unwilling to move.
yeah. Bard's advice now is gather your wisdom. I love that. Gather your wisdom ere we return. I mean, it might say, I mean, he's as proud as Thorin is at this point. And you were just one of the watchmen before. Bard is suddenly like this great, king of his own people as they want him to be. I mean, he speaks like this experienced, wise leader. Gather your wisdom. Here we return.
Down with the money bags, up with the bowmen.
So, all righty. They they come back. A few hours pass, and they come back. And they in the name of Esgaroth and the forest, we speak unto Thorin Thrain, son of Oakenshield, calling himself the king. Did you catch that? So he's nodding. Calling himself the king under the mountain. Um, Deliver us 1/12, or we will be declared our foe. So I don't know. They're trying to call his bluff. Of course they are. There's 13 dwarves and a hobbit. We have an army.
We
They
have a
show
home.
up and they say tough, but it's calling himself, that's a bit insulting. Now maybe that's the elves kind of saying that. I don't know. But Bard seems to be making the same mistakes that Thorin is. Like, I'm proud. This is what it needs to be, whether or not you're right or wrong, and we're going to, and you're going to be our foes. And of course, Thorin's response is an arrow into the, um, into the shield of the speaker. Now, he didn't kill him, and it's probably knowing that it won't kill anybody, but who knows? Uh, so they
I also will say 1/12 is, it's for a whole town, but each of them were only supposed to get 1/14th. And so he is asking for more than.
How did he come up with 1/12, right? Like, what is that? He was just like coming up with a number.
No idea.
Yeah. Well, now it's not Bard who's grim, but so grim had Thorin become. And it's interesting because now for the rest of the chapter, grim is used to describe dwarves. It's dwarves of the Iron Hills. I mean, that become the grim ones now. Um, uh, but the rest of the dwarves agree with Thorin, except old fat Bomber, which is really just like another fat joke, right? He's old and fat. He just wants comfort and food. He's annoyed with this. But also Feely and Keely. The youngest of the dwarves
Yeah.
do not agree with their king. What is that about? I mean, he specifically separates them from the rest of the dwarves here. That they are, is it because of their age? Like they don't have the same attachment that the older dwarves would have to this tradition that you're king and, you know,
Yeah, that's what I think it is. I think that they don't see the injustice as much in it. Um, but I think Philly and Killy also are much more are more joyful at throughout the entire book. They have more hope. Like after they got out of the barrels, and Philly and Killy were just like, huh, that was weird, but I'm okay now. Um, I think that they just generally have more hope and a lot less of this resentment and arrogance and pride. And so they're like, yeah, sure, let's just give him some money. Just give him some of the gold. It's not that big a deal.
Somebody put in the chat, hashtag the kids are all right.
I think that the idea of Feely and Keely is a little bit, yes, it's the kids are all right. But it's the notion that there's this younger generation that is not tied in to the old codified problems that dwarves have. And we see that throughout their correspondence. Like they protect Bilbo. They're like part of, like, you know, they go, oh, he's kind of great. Like, we like them. We like him. They're not tied to the same methodology.
Yeah.
And
what
terrible notions of culture that that the dwarves of their older generation are.
What's going to happen right now that they're all waiting for? Battle, right? Fighting.
Yeah.
What did Tolkien go through, 20 years before he wrote this, or less than 20 years before he wrote this?
Yeah.
World War I in battle. He understands what it's like to be the young generation coming into a situation where, yeah, you're all going to have to fight. Well, why are we fighting? For king and country? Like, it's like, and I don't think Tolkien is this kind of, anti-patriotic, like that's not his experience, but his experience is you need to be careful about what you're going off to fight for. Do you know the price of what you're going to fight for? Now, Thorin does, and Balin does, and these other dwarves do. But the younger guys are kind of like, they don't know. And I think it's fascinating that he pulls them aside and says, yeah, they're the ones that maybe will be reluctant to do this. As Tolkien and his generation. Yeah.
That's great, Ed. Like, I think that's a way to look at it.
Tolkien and his generation were not. They were like, yes, let's do this. Now Tolkien held off for a little bit because he had to do a certain amount of school. And he knew that if he didn't finish this right here, he wouldn't. But he did, and he went over and suffered, and friends died. Two of his best friends died, and so he knows what this is like. And I'm fascinated that he pulls the two youngest here.
I don't want to do like spoilers, but people die.
Yeah. So he pulls them aside and says, these are the people that he doesn't want. In this text, it's the younger people who were not, and Bilbo, who were not.
I think that also makes sense with these, the theme of a small hero, of an unlikely hero, of sometimes the younger ones have the wisdom. And I think that's what's happening here.
Yeah. Well, Bilbo, it doesn't want to go, but he's basically just sick of this because the whole place still stinks of dragon.
The whole place stinks of dragon, and it makes me sick, which I just think is a little joke for the dragon.
Well, it is too, and it's also like, well, in the manuscript, he had actually written, it still smelled hatefully of dragon anyway, and which was a little more pointed. Because I think what's going on here is this is more than just literal here. There's a stench of what the dragon is about. Greed, cruelty, battle. That's what the dragon represents. That's what the dragon brings to people. And that is still there, permeating. It's like the miasma of the it's the miasma of dragon sickness is what it is still there.
It permeates and affects behavior of the dwarves.
Yeah.
In a way that Bilbo is not responsive to.
All righty. Chapter 16. A thief in the night. Are you ready for it, Sophie? We're going to get to it in this chapter. Days pass. Like none of this happens quickly. Like it says days pass slowly and wearily. Thorin is just thinking about the Arkenstone. Everybody look for it. For the Arkenstone of my father is worth more than a river of gold in itself, and to me it is beyond price, the stone of all the treasure that I name unto myself, and I will be avenged on anyone who finds it and withholds it. Well,
yeah, he's threatening violence against his friends.
and Bilbo
Against
has
13 people.
already found it and is holding it. So my question was, why doesn't Bilbo give it up? But of course, like, well, now you're not. Now he just like if you say that like, oh, I've had it, he's gonna kill you.
I mean, could have just tried to be like, oh my gosh, look, it's been right here
Oh,
the
look at
whole
that!
time.
Just like to drop it down out of his. Oh, look, there it is.
I don't think that would have flown. I think at this point, anyone that found it would have been getting wrath.
Well, but it all begs the question, well, why didn't he give it up before? I mean, the text in chapter 13, when he found it, he said right away, now I am a burglar indeed. But I suppose I must tell the dwarves about it sometime. They did say I could pick and choose my own share, and I think I would choose this if they took all the rest. All the same, he had an uncomfortable feeling that the picking and choosing had not really been meant to include this marvelous gem, and that trouble would yet come of it. So, you know, he knows that he shouldn't keep it, but he has kept it anyway. And this I know this was troubling your, your mind when you were young when we were reading this. But I also think that now I become a burglar indeed, that like when he found it, it was like I'm a burglar. Um, there's
I
also the
did it.
beauty of it, right? The line, there's also the line then in chapter 13, which is Bilbo's arm went towards it, drawn by its enchantment. That when and there's a whole paragraph describing it. It's like that's the greatest thing ever created. And it's like a Silmaril. So there's that side of it too, but he's he's never given it up.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this is where we might get into Providence, that he knew somewhere in him that he needed to keep this for later. Um, but I think it's also
Yeah,
that
I wish, but there's no evidence for that in the text.
no, there isn't. I also think it's that we've seen Bilbo be pulled in by a powerful object before. He almost killed Gollum over the ring. He didn't, but
Only in the rewrite.
only in the rewrite, but
Only in the rewrite. And that's not the case when he's writing this for the first time. The Arkenstone has a power, and
yeah.
I've talked about it before in his original manuscript. He has this gem of Girion, and it's starting to develop into something like that. But he doesn't go for it completely. And then many years later, or several years later, he realizes, oh, I can make the ring into something like that. But
Yeah.
he doesn't do it in this book.
Arkenstone is not the necklace or gems of Girion.
No, it's not some ordinary thing. He has created some powerful
built earlier. And the Arkenstone is what I think is really interesting to think about with the Arkenstone is it is the heart of the mount. Right. To dwarves, it is I mentioned the Silmarils, which we're not really talking about too much. But to the dwarves, it is of that level of importance, right? It is true heart of the mountain, beyond gold, beyond everything else they might have wanted. This is the thing that they took from the mountain, which is more important to them than everything else that was ever spent there.
But not for Bilbo. So why does he keep it?
Give a fuck about that.
Yeah, why does he keep it?
Bilbo was like, yeah, that's great. And
I think it's the power of
the... But if you could escape a war through giving away a thing.
No, we haven't gotten that yet. He has kept, my question is, he has kept it and not told them.
Yeah, I think it is the power of the stone. Like, I think this is a powerful object that has drawn him in. Not as much as, a dragon sickness does, but, This is also,
I
though
think
it
he
doesn't
suffers
have,
no sickness from the retrieval of the Arkenstone.
though it doesn't have all the like emotional weight behind it, Bilbo has still just been on a long journey that he has never done before
Yeah.
with the promise of I'm getting treasure at the end.
I'm gonna choose this.
Yeah.
All righty.
This is where we're going to go with you and your thoughts about like reading it with your father at a young age. Is what does it mean for Bilbo, who is in possession of this thing and knows its importance, to go, yeah,
We'll get there. We'll get there.
no,
We'll get
and
there. We're not there yet. The right now the ravens tell them. I mean, well, first, all the same, Bilbo did not speak of it, the Arkenstone, for as the weariness of the days grew heavier, the beginnings of a plan had come into his little head. Now he's not giving it because he's starting to think about what he could do with it. First of all, the ravens bring news that Dane and 500 dwarves are marching from the Iron Hills. They're just 2 days march away. But Roäc also has some advice. I do not call this council good, though they are a grim folk. Now, first it was Thorin, now it's the dwarves are becoming grim. They are not likely to overcome the host that besets you. Like, yeah, you're going to get 500 dwarves, but guess what? There's more of them, and you're not going to win. And then what will you gain? He says. The treasure is likely to be your death, or the dragon is no more. You got treasure, but there's no food, and it's gonna be winter. You got no friends around this area now because you're gonna fighting. And so what's gonna happen? And Thorin's just like, well, they won't have any food or friends either.
Yeah, and it's arrogance. It's like, no, that's gonna affect them, but we're gonna be fine. You won't. The thing is, you still also won't have food.
And now Bilbo makes up his mind. I think that's
Mhm.
the last straw. That night, Bilbo made up his mind.
Well,
And
yeah, because he heard that they weren't gonna get any more food. Bilbo can't handle that.
no more bacon and eggs for you. They and it's interesting. There's 4 versions of this in the manuscript now. This scene with Bombor. Um, uh, they in the drafts of the manuscript that survive because and Tolkien was writing it and then he crossed it out and redoes it, but then he even like we have it because it's the verso, it's the back page of a manuscript that he winds up saving. But what he does is in the first version, it's Bafor and Bombor are on watch, and Bilbo comes out and he says, "It's warm enough inside, guys, but he's got 2 dwarves." He's got to get them in and inside long enough for Bilbo to escape. This doesn't seem right, so he rewrites it, and now it's just Bombor. And again, Bilbo comes out, hey, it's warmer inside here, so why don't you come in? And then he crosses that out. And then the third one, this is the one that's on the verso of the page. Bilbo says, let's sing songs to cheer us up to Bombor. And then somebody, but probably Bombor, it doesn't say whether it's Bombor or Bilbo, says singing is thirsty work and calls for more than water. Well, is he saying that we're going to get drunk? But no, they don't have any booze, so that's not possible. But Bilbo begins singing a song, and he says that his father used to sing him when he was in bed. So he's trying to sing a lullaby to put Bombur to sleep, I guess. But then there's more draft, and then Bombur goes inside to get a cloak, and he's like, "Oh, I'll go in and get a cloak to wrap us up." And then Bilbo just slips over the wall, and he's gone. And Bombur comes in. He says, "Confound that hobbit! What Thorin would say if he knew the watch were broken, I don't know. But in the dark, he did not see the rope, and it was not until morning, and that's all he wrote." That doesn't help. Like Bilbo's got to get out and back without anybody knowing. So that's the difficulty. And then the final version is what we have here. He's got to deceive Bombor. And that's what he does. And that's the first thing that that throws up the radar here, that he has to Uh, he has to deceive him to get over, and even Bombor notes the disagreement with, that he has. He's like, he kind of like says, I disagree with Thorin, but I don't. Now, not that I venture to disagree with Thorin, may his beard grow ever longer, yet he was ever a dwarf with a stiff neck. So Bombor wants to compromise in some way, but doesn't. And Bilbo, and then Bilbo says, "Oh, I'll take the watch," right? And then Bombor even says, "You're a good fellow, Mr. Baggins, and I will take your offer kindly." Oh, and he's tricking him.
But
So,
it's for the greater good.
it
For the
is.
greater good.
It is. What do you think of this exchange, Rob?
The issue that goes on with thinking about how Thorin thinks about the world is Thorin's moving further and further apart from Bilbo's understanding of getting along, right? Bilbo's like, oh, why can't we just negotiate these things? And Thorin cannot, because he's under the dragon sickness that's coming on, and that's the stuff we started talking about. I don't think that I think we have a moment here where Bilbo understands the world, better than Thorin does. And it's a hard moment for both of them.
And it's funny because I think Bilbo's always had a better understanding of what should be done in situations and with people and all this stuff, and Thorin's never really had that.
Struck by lightning, struck by lightning.
Yes. And yet, when he got out into the world, he understood how to operate in it better than the dwarves did. That doesn't necessarily mean he understands how to operate in it, but he at least better than the dwarves so far.
Dwarves in general aren't charisma based characters. They don't negotiate. They never in this book have the dwarves been the one to negotiate anything or make a plan socially. Like with Beorn, Gandalf was the one who was like, okay, you have to come in 2 at a time, and even then they didn't fully listen to him, and at the end Bombor was like, no, I'm coming in with all 3 of us. But the dwarves don't know how to negotiate in these ways.
Well, dwarves don't have charisma until Richard Armitage plays Thorin, who I love, and like I'm following Richard Armitage, and even when you're wrong, I'm like, all right, you're cool.
Exactly.
But he's so beautiful, Thorin.
He's awesome.
Thorin.
Bilbo sneaks away here, and as soon as Bombor are gone, he puts on his ring, he gets the rope, he goes over the wall. Bombor would sleep. He could sleep at any time. And ever since the adventure in the forest, he was always trying to recapture the beautiful dreams he had then. And all the others were busy with Thorin. It was unlikely that any, even Philly and Killy, even the young guys would come out in the wall until it was their turn. I don't know if you can remember this, Soph. I don't know if anybody can remember the first time reading, but it seems like Bilbo's getting away. Like he's taken the Arkenstone and running.
Yeah, I thought he was joining. I do remember it. I thought he was joining the other side. I was like, oh my God, why would he do this? Like, these are his friends. I know that Thorin isn't making good choices, but these are his friends. Why would he abandon them?
Yeah. Like, I've saved the dwarves enough.
That's interesting. So you felt that when you were hearing it while it's being read to you?
Yeah.
I don't know how to not think that if you're looking at the text the first time. There's no hint that he's coming up with a plan. Like, the plan is to get the heck out, a dodge before the elves and men attack.
Yeah, but we have all this stuff where he would never abandon his friends. So
That's what makes it. That's what makes it like really difficult. Like that's what makes it so tough. That like, oh my gosh, he's doing that.
Yeah, this is great. It's a great conversation to have. But he never abandoned them while they were in the Elven Kings.
Well, it looks like he was doing it this time.
Right.
Yeah, I remember being so shocked. Why is he?
Yeah.
He just lied to Bombor. He just tricked Bombor to going to sleep, and now he's leaving in the middle of the night towards the enemy camps
With
What are you
the
doing?
Arkenstone.
Yeah.
So, all righty, he goes and he falls in the water, and they hear him. That was no fish, one said. I love that line. That was no fish.
That's no moon.
There is a spy about. So here he is. It's that queer little creature that is said to be their servant. Bilbo's like, whoa. Well, yes. But also like he doesn't like being called a grocer. You're definitely not going to call him the servant of the dwarves.
No.
And I love how he takes charge here, and he just tells them what's what. And this is what you got to do, and that's it. Like, you know, I'm Mr. Bilbo Baggins. I know your king well by sight, though perhaps he doesn't know me to look at. Bard will remember me. I'm going to talk to Bard. You take me to a fire and and they just do. Like
again, Bilbo taking charge. Bilbo being a leader and doing what he thinks it is the best plan.
Yeah, so I'd like to take a second and talk about hand. Bilbo has hand here. He just comes forward and says, "Fuck you! I have a hand."
Dude, you're the only one who curses on this show.
Am I the only one? I don't think so, but okay.
Yeah.
Frig you! I have a hand. And Bilbo like tells them who he is and who he should be.
Yeah.
And hobbits don't proceed like that.
Nope. Tookish hobbits do.
But the Tookish hobbits do.
Yeah.
He's totally in control of who he is and says, "Yep, well, shut up and take me to your leader."
And there's this combination now. Now, like, I understand to be a Tookish hobbit, and that's what I can do to get things done, but only in service of I need to go back to be a Baggins hobbit because that's what I really want. That's the goal at the end of the day.
Those of you who are going to be here for what Ed just talked about with the final episodes of Corey Olsen. Corey Olsen's book is about the hobbits very much about Baggins versus the Tookish.
Definitely.
In terms of the nature of Bilbo. And he'll have a lot to say about this.
All right. Bilbo goes to them. They do him. They put him by the fire. And then I love this. A hobbit in elvish armor, partly wrapped in an old blanket, was something new to them. He's got the mithril coat on. It's not mithril in the very first edition, but that's what it is. But it's this elvish, beautiful armor that he's wearing. And Bilbo assesses the situation for them, for Bard and the Elven King. Things are impossible. You know, I'm tired of the whole affair. Basically, he's tired. He wishes he were home. And he infers that everybody there is unreasonable. I want to be home where folk are more reasonable, meaning none of you are. And he says,
they're not.
All wars are unreasonable.
Yeah.
Hobbits.
And he says, I have an interest. I have 1/14 share, to be precise, according to the letter, which fortunately I believe I have kept. And he pulls it out. This is the letter that Thorin left on the mantelpiece. In the text, it said left on his mantelpiece in May, which is a mistake. It was actually April 28th, and we know this. And he makes the mistake twice in the text when he calls it May, and it's actually April 28th. And this contract is there, and he shows it, and which is what we know it is. And he says, you can deduct your claim. He tells the Elven King and Bard, you can deduct your claims from my I would say you could deduct your claims from my share if I could, but basically Thorin's not going to give in. He is quite ready to sit on a heap of gold and starve as long as you sit here. So, um, uh, he tells them all, winter is coming. There you go. Winter is coming, Rob. We're gonna bring Martin into this. Winter is coming, and Dane is coming though in this book. So he tells them that, and they're like, "What is it?" Bart says, "Are you warning us? Are you threatening us?" And then Bilbo gets Entish. For all you Lord of the Rings people out there, he says, "Don't be so hasty. I never met such suspicious folk. I am merely trying to avoid trouble for all concerned. Now I will make you an offer." "You may see it," said he. "It is this." And he drew forth the Arkenstone and threw away the wrapping. And that's literally what happened.
Oh my! I remember that.
It was either that, or it's when he said, like it's the Arkenstone, it's the heart of Thorin. Bilbo, not without a shudder, not without a glance of longing, handed the marvelous stone to Bard, and he held it in his hand as though dazed. Like that is a moment that I think you, well, you could tell me. I mean, why did you gasp? Can you remember when you were 8 years
old? Yeah, let's do the Sophie moment. That's a Sophie moment. Right?
I think it felt like a betrayal to his friends. These are your friends? These are the people you've worked so hard to get here with? Like, why would you betray them like this? Thorin has said over and over again how much this stone means to him. I was already distressed as a kid that he didn't give the stone over to begin with, or that he didn't tell anyone. And now he's literally handing it over to the enemy, to the army outside their gates.
I mean, that betrayal, and I don't know, maybe other first-time readers, as adults or when they were kids, I almost feel like this is one of those kind of things that it's the kind of moral conundrum that a child gets before an adult gets. That the child thinks, and I'm not, I mean, you were a child, you're not a child now, so, but right. But you thought then that, like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And I think adults read this are like, good idea. Because we've lost our sense of those absolutes kinds of thing, They're like, it's not cut and dried. And he stole it from the dwarves, and he's using it for something good. And I think that's reasonable now. But
yeah. But that takes a minute for a kid to understand. The first thing I was hearing as a kid is he truly is a thief. He has stolen from his friends and is now giving it to the bad guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I got stuff here. One, he didn't steal it. He took it.
He did.
And he even said he stole it. He even said, "I'm a burglar indeed."
I'm truly, yeah.
Took it.
I gotta push back on that. He did steal it.
I'm a burglar indeed. This was the job that they gave him. He did not steal it from the others. He took it. I'm a burglar indeed, which is a great thing. And he offered it, which is really great, to other people, making it a moment where it's like, I have this thing which could end all wars between you, and I will offer that, even though when he took it, when he said, "Oh, well, that's my 14th share that I'm supposed to get. I'm going to take it. I'm going to hold it. I'm not going to tell anybody about it." He offered it like, this will just keep everybody away from war.
But it makes but it's not being it's not like he's not a thief. He's being a thief in order to do that.
Is he a thief
Yes.
when he grabs the Arkenstone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why?
And especially when Thorin's like, if this is the only thing I want, if anybody finds it, you have to give it to me. And he doesn't, he's a thief.
Yeah.
You think so?
And then he leaves with it to give it to somebody else.
I'm not sure I believe that.
And he could be Robin Hood in this situation, right? Like I'm doing it as a Robin Hood kind of gesture, but guess what? Robin Hood was a thief.
After all the things that he's done for the dwarves over the span of the novel, to be able to put the Arkenstone in his pocket,
yeah,
and know how important it is, even though he doesn't even think about how he profits from it yet.
Justify his thievery all you want, but it's still thievery, and he has a good justification.
Is it? I'm not sure.
If you can justify it, it doesn't change the act. The act was still, I took something that didn't belong to me, and you didn't know I took it, and I made sure you didn't know I took it.
Promised a 14th share, and when he picks it up,
that's his reason.
This will be the best thing.
That's the justification. Yeah.
And he thinks as he's doing that, I don't think that actually applies to this gem. I think that my 14th share is allowed to be anything but this. But he took it anyway.
And then Thorin later tells him that too. Like, this nobody's allowed to have.
And so this is a thing about whether we understand maybe his greed that might be there because of the ring. We think about all this stuff.
Yeah, but that's not in this book. I mean, it isn't. He doesn't take it. He doesn't hold on to it because of the ring. He doesn't. It doesn't exist.
But he grabs it and he thinks that it should be his. And it should be his share. And that's what I want to say.
Yeah.
This moment is what makes me think that there's a little bit of providence. There's a little bit of fate happening because he didn't give it over. Like, because over and over again, he chose, even after Thorin is saying, like, hey, I want this, he still doesn't give it over. I'm not saying he had this grand scheme from the start.
And he doesn't, and he tells us he didn't, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, he finds it, he wants it, he keeps it, doesn't tell anybody, and then he finds out, oh, I'm going to be in trouble if I say I have it, so I'm not saying it yet. And then he comes up with a plan. And so, like, had he not come up with the plan, then that would have been the moment for him to say, hey, guess what? I actually have it. Here it is.
Yeah.
It'd go differently than that. Unless he recognizes his ownership of this thing and what this thing can mean to the other people he's negotiating with, right? Then the thing has less value. He took it thinking it could be his 14th share. And then he was willing. What we forget about that when we examine this is he's willing to give away his 14th share.
He is.
He is.
Right? And he thinks this is the thing that is the 14th share without knowing how much it preys upon the mind of Thorin.
Well, he does know. Thorin's told him now. By this point, Thorin is told.
He's starting to get that. And he's like, the best thing I can do for Thorin.
That's why he did it in secret. That's why he did it in secret, because he knows it.
Yeah, but he's the best thing he can do for Thorin is.
This is the heroic thing he does. This is for me, when this is like the most in the text, is like the most heroic thing, the most brave thing he ever did was going on in that tunnel to face the dragon. I'm thinking like, no, this was the most heroic, brave thing you've ever done. You have taken something that your friends want, and you are giving it away to save your friends.
Yeah.
Love it. I love
that. That's why this is like and that's why this novel keeps on going, because that's getting the treasure and killing the dragon doesn't matter. It's about Bilbo and when he will truly become, and this is, I think, when he becomes a true hero.
I love
and then I love when he says he has to go back.
Yeah.
That is
go back? What?
That's what, yeah, that's what solidifies to me. Like, no, he's not. He isn't betraying them. He is, but it's not out of malice. It is for their benefit in the
Yeah.
end. He's not trying to steal from them in a way that they'll never get it back. He still thinks like, no, 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 this is now leverage for you.
And he's gonna face the music. Like,
Mhm.
go back and face what he has done because it is the right thing to do. Well, there's a line in the manuscript too. It's interesting. Like and I learned all this through John Ratliff's History of the Hobbit. They in the manuscript in the margin of this scene, Tolkien had written, "I only wish to save trouble and foolishness all around, and this seemed to me a possible way." But that line's not in the book. Now, whether he missed it when he typed it up, like we don't know, but like that seems to me to get at what he's thinking there. He's wishing to save trouble and foolishness, and this is the best possible way, and which is the perfect justification for doing this. But the Elven King then, when he compliments him, that just kills me. I read that at the beginning of the show. You are more worthy to wear the armor of elf princes than many that have looked more comely in it. Maybe it's a backhanded compliment that, like, you don't even look good in it, but you're more worthy of it. And I get from an elf, that is, you don't look like an elf wearing this, yes, because you're a hobbit, and hobbits are gross and ugly little people. Not as ugly.
Beautiful and elegant like these elves.
Elves think the dwarves are really bad. They're the stunted people for the elves. But uh but that moment, like, other people recognize this in Bilbo too. And um and then the Elven King, though, throws his problem in here. Like, he says, but don't trust. I wonder if Thorin Oakenshield will see to it. I have more knowledge of dwarves in general that you have, perhaps. Like, stay with me. That, like, that's why we're here in this position, because the distrust that has been generated because of past events from
Yeah.
elf dwarves, and now you're all still fighting over something that happened in the past. Guess who was in World War One? So this is the problem. This is
And
people stop worrying about what happened in the past. You should all be friends. So you all live in Europe. You should all get along. You all live in this area here by the lake, the elves, the lake men, the dwarves in the mountain. You should all get along. And this is Bilbo wants to go back. And he says, I don't think I ought to leave my friends like this after all we have gone through together. Like,
yeah.
he calls them friends, doesn't, they're his friends. And I gotta wake up Bomber.
I was about to say that, and I promised to wake old Bombor at midnight too. He promised. He's keeping his promises
Yeah.
to his friends.
Yeah.
It
So
really, this scene, he he's being so brave. This is the bravest moment he does when he's risking his friendship, but knows that this is going to help them later. Even if that means he's going to have to face the music for it, he'll do that because he believes it will help his friends.
I moved on from the old fashioned to just whiskey now. So there we go. Well, he goes back, and who turns up, Rob? The old man.
The old man.
Gandalf. Like, Gandalf returns.
Why is Gandalf here?
That's a good question. Well, as they passed through the camp, an old man wrapped in a dark cloak rose from the tent door where he was sitting and came towards them. "Well done, Mr. Baggins," he said, clapping Bilbo on the back. "There is always more about you than anyone expects." It was Gandalf.
I think the reason Gandalf appears here, did not go away, is for that fundamental judgment of Bilbo Baggins. plays a part as we go forward, but not a big part. And what he largely does is say,
well, yeah, it might be a question that we can only answer later, but
Yeah.
I think, but that he is here is definitely like, of course he's going to come back. I mean, he told them he would kind of told them he would
of course. I'm not sure, of course.
Like I'll return one day, hopefully to see you through the end of this, whatever his words were. But he does have advice. Um, well, they don't have any time for questions. He's like, okay, things are drawing towards the end now, unless I am mistaken. There is an unpleasant time just in front of you, but keep your heart up. You may come through all right. There is news brewing that even the ravens have not heard. Good night. Basically, he says, keep your heart up, but
Then he comes back here and he says, like, that's great. You've done all these things and it's wonderful. But he when Gandalf comes back, he ties us to the bigger things of the world.
Yes. Well, yes, he does. But he also still comes up with this like this is the hope inspiring Gandalf of this novel. That like,
Yeah.
like he's basically saying you're still going to go through a lot of bad stuff. I hope you make it.
But he approves of what Bilbo did, and I think that that's
That he thinks
really
is really
important.
important. And that affirmation is really important. I mean, Bilbo's response is he's puzzled but cheered.
And isn't that how most conversations with Gandalf end?
Yes. Well, in this novel, yes. So anyway,
Puzzled but cheered is a really great way of thinking about a Gandalf that doesn't know really all of what's going on.
yeah. But Gandalf has heard some things, and we will find out what he has heard that will happen in the next chapter. Well, Bilbo goes back. He's anxious. He's wondering anxiously what would happen next. And then he wakes up Bombur and he goes to sleep. And he was soon fast asleep, forgetting all his worries till the morning. As a matter of fact, he was dreaming of eggs and bacon. Um, I'd love that because, and especially because now what I've learned is that in the manuscript, it's not there. The manuscript ends with just, and soon he was fast asleep, forgetting all his worries till the morning. And then he's like, no, 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 no. He's dreaming of eggs and bacon. That was as a matter of fact, he was dreaming it. Like that was that reminder again of Bilbo thinking of home. And
Yeah.
that is what he's hoping to achieve one day through all this adventure.
Yeah. And though he's changed, though he's grown, become more of a leader, become braver, become more tookish, he still wants to go home and eat eggs and bacon. That's really at the core of who he is,
All
what
right.
he wants.
All right. First time I'm ever going to do this. I need to take a short break before we then talk about, instead of the Thane's book, we're going to go to talk about Tolkien's original plot notes. And I'm going to take a short break for like 60 seconds.
I'm also going to take a 60-second break. BRB.
Probably less than 60 seconds, but so sometimes you just got to take a little break, if y'all know what I mean. Well, instead of Yeah, no one's ever seen me take a bio break. I think I may have taken a break in one like a Dracula series at one point or something like that. And they were really long episodes that I used to do. And I was always like the last half hour of those old episodes, I was always like there was some pain involved, but I got through them and now I don't have to. But anyway, the what I want to do instead of the Thames book is I want to look at Tolkien's original plot notes, which are all in this, glorious history of the Hobbit, from John Ratliff here that had written this. I absolutely love this. The uh, Last week I had given some of this too in the and all about the original story of Bilbo killing the dragon. I can
Yeah.
start now before Rob gets back because we've all heard this last week. And he kills the dragon and then he's floating in a golden bowl and floating in the dragon's blood down. Like, oh my gosh. Um, I love it, and it would have been crazy.
I want to clarify, does this section still have spoilers?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, I kept it spoiler free. Yes.
Nice.
Even though it's a Thames book, it is spoiler free for The Hobbit.
Cool. Cool.
Thank you for clarifying that. All righty. Well, those plot notes when he floats away on the dragon blood continues. And it is the dwarves dig through the tunnel and take possession of their old homes, but the gold is mostly crushed and they cannot use it because of the dragon's body. So the dragon, by being on the gold for so long, makes it useless. That's really weird. But that's the plot note, that they can't use the gold anyway because the dragon laid on it so long. The men of the lake and wood elves come up and besiege the dwarves, attempt to block the front door. Bilbo, sorrowful, meets Gandalf in the place in Lake Town. It's Blad. It's Bladorthin. Bladorthin rebukes the besiegers. Gandalf tells the lakemen and the elves, he rebukes them, and the dwarves. Gandalf makes he makes the dwarves pay Bilbo a share of Bilbo's part. He gives to the lakemen and to the wood elves, though they may not deserve it, he writes here, and they escort Bilbo and Gandalf back through Mirkwood. Like literally, like that's the end of the book. That's what he's come up with. And then he's written on the page there, dragon killed in the Battle of the Lake. And now he's like, now I'm changing all this. Okay. So this is then he writes and he does make those changes. And then his next plot notes are he backs up some. The dwarves and Bilbo are waiting about the dragon. It's all the same as usual. Here we go. They're waiting for the dragon to come back. He doesn't. They come in and get the treasure. This is all the stuff that he does writes and happens. And then the siege of the mountain. This was what he was thinking of originally. Bilbo sneaks forth at night and comes to the camps. He calls for Bard and sits amid the counselors. He says the gem of Girion is his own. It becomes the Arkenstone. His own, since something to share. If it were all, and the dwarves prize it more dearly than all else, he would give it to Bard, the heir of Girion, to let his friends go in peace. The wood elves and other counselors speak against him, and then Gandalf, an old man, rises from the floor. It is Gandalf. He speaks to Bard. Prophecies often come true in different guys. Be not a greater fool than the fools who, something the dragon from his wealth, believe not prophecies less because you yourself have aided in their fulfillment. The gold is not yours. Prosperity shall reign if the real king under the mountain comes back. Be not outdone in generosity by Mr. Baggins, who has bargained all his reward for his friends. Dale and Lake Town are to be rebuilt. Who are you? Said the king of the elves. I am Gandalf. Then he believed at last that Thorin, the king of the elven king, believed at last that Thorin is indeed Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thror. Why did he not say so? Your own acts condemn you because dwarves understood better, and then everything is okay. Basically, the denouement in the original plot notes was Bilbo says, here's the Arkenstone. I'll give it to you if you stop the siege and let the dwarves live. And it's just a bribe. And Gandalf is like, that's the real king under the mountain. And if you do, everything will be fine. And they're like, it's a good idea. That is a much different ending. And thankfully, he didn't go with it. But there were other things that he didn't go with as well. And then later, there's what we call plot notes E.
I love hearing these alternate endings. Like I feel there's an alternate universe out there in which this is how The Hobbit ends.
Yeah. And there will be alternate endings in the very last episode too. But these apply to now, so I can give them away so I can tell them without giving away everything. But plot notes E, the Philly and Killy. This is like the dwarves are there, and then Philly and Killy go out to find the ponies. And they have not come back and are pursued by warriors. And the dwarves fortify the front gate. Killy comes back and he tells them that Philly was wounded and captured by the elves and men. And then the ravens come in and the ravens bring meat and bread to them because they're big too. They can carry that stuff. They bring meat and bread to the dwarves to sustain them. There's no mention of Dane anywhere in this, that this will be that the dwarves have called for the Thorin has called for the other dwarves to come. And then it's the parley here and Thorin's like, has scornful words and he tells them to go away. But these stages of development that he has to go through to figure out this story and how this is supposed to end are all exist in the manuscripts, which are all at Marquette University in study.
I think it was a really good choice to bring the Dane and the dwarves to the mountain. I know we haven't seen it yet, so I won't talk about what happens. But I think it helps.
What? They don't come, do they? The dwarf, that Dane, that's right. They might not come.
It's been talked about, but I think that it opens the world up. Like it's no longer just these 13 dwarves fighting for their home back. Like this is their families are coming to as well. Their community is on its way. And I think that that's good for the world building of it.
Rob, what do you think? There's also, Rob, let me tell you this to you too.
Okay.
Talk about the ending, but this is your last episode, so I want any kind of closing thoughts to the journey we've been on.
I know. I'm going to be here for the other stuff.
Well, you'll be in the chat, but
in the chat. I think that measuring the heroism of Bilbo is really important in this chapter. This is where we go, right? This is what we've got.
I laughed at something else. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hi. What are you doing?
No, I laughed at something else. There was something in the chat that I'll say in a minute. I didn't want you to think I was laughing at what you were saying. Go ahead.
No, what was in the chat that was so laughable?
My guess is that Ed was definitely the parent who kept everyone's belief in Santa going as long as he could.
That's really true.
Doesn't Ed really look like Santa?
Until my kids are practically teenagers. So, all righty. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Soph.
Yeah, this is
no, that's
part
very
of being
true,
the
and I
family
did
friend.
try.
But here's where I'm going to go. What happens here is that we get to see Bilbo being a hero of giving, a hero of almost potlatch culture, a hero of, I've got this thing, if we can give it to you and you'll all go away and we can have peace, then that's what I will do. And it's a really unique thing.
Yeah.
The histories and the stories that Tolkien draws from. It's a very, very modern idea. And I love that about Bilbo. I love Bilbo's, a lot of what happens in this book is not so much an understanding of what the world of Lord of the Rings is, but an idea of a more modern world than Lord of the Rings that moves into the mythic culture that Tolkien was writing about. So this is, the people coming from the Shire like Bilbo, they have umbrellas and pocket watches and all these things that nobody else has. They come here and they become a voice for what's different about their world from the mythic world that Tolkien was dealing with.
Bilbo's a hero, but he's still not a warrior. He isn't winning with violence. He isn't winning a great battle. He's instead quietly negotiating to try and quell the conflict to peace.
It's not just that. It's that the high medieval world that Tolkien loves to think about and write about and present even to his children is echoed by the world that they already know. The agrarian growing up in a comfortable society world that Bilbo enters into and goes into this different place and has these different feelings about. Bilbo is a modern person. The Shire is a modern world, an agrarian modern, but and rural and kind of not the world that we think of as modernism from the time that he's writing it. But at the same time, he's projected into a medievalized society.
Yes. I
kind of talk about.
Just as a technical point, it's not the high medieval, it's the old medieval that he's really interested in. That high medieval, like,
absolutely,
that kind of stuff. That's not what he likes, but it's the old medieval. But the and the idea too that Bilbo is Bilbo, especially in this chapter, Bilbo's willing to do something wrong to achieve something right. And that's not a concept that gets bandied about in older, medieval texts.
Absolutely.
And it's also, but it's a very much a modern concept that he's going to do something wrong to achieve something right and be heroic.
And you're absolutely anticipating where I was going. Like, that's a thing, right? He's a guy from our modern world projected into a medieval world that says, yeah, well, shouldn't I just do this? Wouldn't that be better? Wouldn't that be kinder? Wouldn't that be more familiar and accurate to like how we should live together?
Yeah.
And be a a community together. And I love that about Bilbo's experience, but it's not a medievalized or an old world assumption. It's the modern world meeting the old world, the mythic world, actually.
All righty. Sophie, anything there?
Final thoughts. I love this book so much. I really it's so good. I think Bilbo's such an amazing hero.
Not done yet. All righty. The chat there, people wondering if I'm Santa as well. I can say no, I'm not Santa, but I do know him and I have helped him. And those pipes on the back wall there, Santa and I have smoked those pipes together. So
every year.
So, all righty.
Christmas.
He doesn't visit me anymore. No, not without little children in the house. Santa doesn't visit me anymore. So, but he used to. Everyone, Rob, thank you for joining for this episode. It's been a pleasure having you on Biblioventures. This is the dream of mine. I have my friends, my family, talking about books I love, and I still get to smoke and drink while I do it. Sophie, you are the best. Thank you. It is awesome to have you on this episode. I love you. And 2 more episodes, everyone, of The Hobbit left. Next week for episode 13, Graham Cheadle will come back for his final show. Chapters 17, The Clouds Burst, and 18, The Return Journey. Then our final episode will be Dr. Sarah Brown for the last chapter 19, The Last Stage. And then our special 4-episode subscription-only show with Michael Drought and Corey Olson. I hope you guys will sign up for that. Thank you, Brianna, our chat assistant, providing links in the chat. Sophie, don't go anywhere. I want to run the credits, but stay on, and I'll see you at the end of the credits. Thank you to all of you who have made a donation to the Rosenbach or become a member. We couldn't do these shows without your generous support. Your donations help us create more programs like this and also care for our collections. You could also become a member. Membership gives you early access and discounts to programs and courses. You can find out more at our website, rosenbach.org, thanks to the WinCode Foundation, and sign up for the new show. Thank you all for watching this series. I'm Edward G. Pettit of the Rosenbach Museum and Library, hoping I will dream of bacon and eggs. That's what I want to dream of tonight. Let's hope it happens. Bye-bye, everyone.